Well, everybody, you're in for a super treat today. Welcome, Natasja, to the Flower Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, me too, me too. And I have enjoyed seeing so much of your work on the gram, and you just create so much beauty. And I'm
Oh, thank you.
super excited to see that you actually have a book coming out. So
Yeah.
we're going to get to that and so much more, I hope, today. I always like to start at the beginning and would love to know. So, how did you enter the world of flowers?
Oh, how long do you have? No, I'm just kidding. No. I always loved flowers. I really always loved flowers. And in hindsight, looking back, I think I worked with flowers a lot longer than I even was conscious at the time. So I had a couture bridal business for almost 20 years. I was in my early
Really?
20s. Yes, I was in my early 20s. And I designed wedding dresses for women. And even when they said, I really want to wear something simple, if I could introduce a flower, whether it was at the bottom of the hem or on a veil, or just a small embroidery of lily of the valley or a rose corsage, I would just be ecstatic. So that was a way of working with flowers, like creating them in fabric in 3D and applicating them. But I also always had in my studio, where my clients came for their fitting sessions, I always had the flowers on the table. So I had these huge arrangements, and which I bought at my weekly market. And as you know, flowers in the Netherlands are not that expensive. So this was something that was done weekly, and my clients used to look forward to seeing what I would have on the table each week. And so after almost 2 decades, my children were born, I felt that I no longer could be that person anymore. I shifted from fashion to florals even more. And I always loved baking. So at first it were the cakes with the flowers. And because I always had the real flowers at home, it became this quest to, well, let's just say, pursue nature and really investigate what these flowers were about. And the minute that happened, that's when I got so incredibly hooked and addicted. And so many nights I would stay up just trying to figure out, what does this flower look like? And yeah, so that's how it happened. Oh
Wow.
yeah, and my daughter's birthday cake, but you probably know that story.
No, I don't.
No,
No.
okay. No, so as I said, I love baking. It was my daughter's 4th birthday, and I thought, let's make her a Barbie cake. And I had this dome-shaped cake, and I had the Barbie wrapped in plastic foil. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Wrap, plastic
Uh-huh.
wrap. And I made a hole in the middle of the cake, and that's where I stuck the Barbie in. And then I had fondant, and I sort of made a dress. And I approached the dress in the same way as I did with my wedding dresses.
Sure.
And I had these very simple plunger cutters, and that's how I figured out that with fondant you could make these sort of small flowers. And I glued them on the cake with edible glue, and I just couldn't believe that it was even possible. So that's when I entered the world of sugar and flowers, and that's when I discovered, you had these YouTube films, especially, sort of 7 years ago. But I thought, no, these flowers look like sugar. They do not look like flowers, because I had the real flowers at home. And that's really how the journey began. So coming as close
Amazing.
as I could, the botanical journey, all of it. Thinking of
So,
my, yeah.
how did you? Okay, so I'm not sure where you were born, and I know you're in Amsterdam or in Holland
Yes,
somewhere.
I am.
Okay, so how did that all come about? How did you end up there?
Well, I was born in Suriname, which
Okay.
is in South America. It has a border with Brazil and with British and French Guiana. It is the size 6 times or 7 times the size of the Netherlands, so it's quite a big country, but barely 1 million people. So you can imagine there's so much nature, there's so much beautiful, beautiful forest.
Sounds wonderful.
And yeah, it is really, so I really do think that the botanical aspect of my love for what I do, I think, stems from my country of birth. Absolutely. And Suriname used to be a Dutch colony. So
Oh,
when I was 4, we moved to the Netherlands. We first lived in the north of Holland, and I moved to Amsterdam in my early 20s. And I don't think I really left. I was away for a couple of years when I had my bridal studio 20 minutes away from Amsterdam because the rents were so incredibly high. But I returned when I got married. My husband had a house here. He has lived in our home for almost 30 years. It's a wonderful canal house built in the 18th century, and it's a lot to look after because there's always something going on somewhere. But it's amazing to live in this historical part of the country, because this part, Amsterdam, there's just so much to see. There's so much beauty.
hmm. I've been there once, and I would agree. And I wish I could go back soon because I do miss it actually. I also can't imagine a better place in the world to live for flowers.
Yeah,
I mean, it's insane just what's there every day. I mean,
yeah,
what moves through that country every day is crazy.
it
Um,
is. Yeah, it's so nice of you to say this.
oh, well, it's
Well,
absolutely
because
true.
for us, it's so natural. We are so used to it. Um, and I think it was before Instagram where I really thought this is normal. And it was after entering the world of Instagram where I understood this is not like in the rest of the world.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
And now I think I've come to appreciate it even more. Absolutely.
Yeah, because if you're in any other part of the world, you really don't know what it's like.
No.
It's like a candy store on every corner,
Yeah.
and it just constantly changes and evolves, and
Yeah.
with the seasons, with the week, with the day, with whatever, and
Yeah. It's
it's
really everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really everywhere. It's when I drive, our airport is only 20 minutes from our city center, and even when that very short ride, especially from, let's say, March even until October, you will stumble upon a field looking out your window, even driving 100 miles an hour. You will see those flowers, you will see the colors, you will see the machinery, you will see, yeah,
Wow.
it's just everywhere. And I think also this is one of the things that people see when they enter the Netherlands from the sky. It is an incredible sight.
Mm.
And for such a small country, also, it's just insane.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. That's
because
the
we're
other
so
side of
small.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Um,
say that the Netherlands is like the size of Lake Michigan or something, or twice the size of New Jersey, something like that.
yeah.
Like compared to the US, we are, I mean, it's like a little needle that, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yet it's a country that manages to stay at the forefront of the floral industry
Yeah.
and cutting edge in every way, from mechanization to hybridization to
Absolutely.
distribution to everything. So,
Yeah.
what a wonderful thing. So, I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit. Your business. So, what right now? What are you more? What is it you do?
What is it that I do? Well, it's multiple things actually, and I always try to just follow my heart. And I think that if you ask someone what is it that you really love to do, most of the time they will say one or two or three things. And I
Sure.
always said to myself, you know what, I am going to do one of those one, two or three things. I'm not going to focus on just one. um And some people say, no, 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 you should just focus on one and just be really good at that. But I always thought, I think I need to spread my sort of business plan. And I have to say that especially when the pandemic came, I think that
Mm.
that really, really saved me. If I would have focused only on making cakes, I would have been out of a business for at least a year, because of course all events just stopped right there.
Right.
But so what is it that I do? First of all, I love flowers. I arrange the flowers, and by doing that, I got requests from people saying, I love your photographs, and do you sell them as prints? So I sell my prints.
Mm.
And the sugar flowers that I create, I often arrange the real flowers with the sugar flowers, because this is a way for me to, well, really work more sustainably, because this way I can arrange roses, peonies, tulips, even when they're not in season.
Yeah, because
And
your flowers look so real. It's insane. In fact, I know it's
yeah.
I know when we share some of these images at some point that it's going to be like, where do we get this, or how do we get that? And I'm like, well, you have to learn how to make it. So
Yeah, but that is also, I mean, yeah, so for instance, sometimes I there are certain flowers where, you know, especially when you create them the first time, there's this real thrill, like doing columbine or certain peonies, or, and it's not just the sculpting, it's also adding the color. And yeah, I really, really hope that more people will be interested in this craft, taking up this craft, because especially if you love flowers, to be so immersed in what they're really about, really almost, you know, checking out their DNA and trying to emulate that is highly thrilling at the end of the day. So I teach creating sugar flowers, and every student that leaves my kitchen studio, they're just so thrilled that they actually go home with the flower. It's really, really cool to create flowers that, with my technique, hopefully people will find close to the real thing. And yeah, so that is basically what I do. So I teach, I'm a photographer, yeah, and that keeps me quite busy.
I guess so. I guess so.
Yeah.
So, out of all the flowers you make, which one is the most difficult?
Oh, oh, at risk of sounding incredibly how do you say that, arrogant, I don't think that there is a difficult flower. There is an impossible flower, like
Okay.
um the ones, I always forget the name. Something happens with your brain, by the way, after a certain age, where you
You don't have to
you
tell
know
me.
what yeah, but no, those where is it dandelions, where you have to, where you blow them, it's like, or um where you blow them and they just disappear in the sky. What do you,
Oh,
you know, those
dandelion.
dandelions, that's the flower
Yes.
name. And I for instance, I bought these very cute purple aquilegias, like really small, like those kinds of flowers are, it's not just difficult because you could, but it will take you an awful long
Right.
time,
Right.
yeah, just to get that same impact. So there's no such thing for me as a difficult flower. It's either impossible or doable.
Sure.
And anything that's doable, oh, that's not difficult.
Yeah.
No.
It's just more about probably how much time it takes to make them at that
Also,
point.
yes, yeah, yeah. How desperately do you want to have that flower in sugar also? Of all the flowers you can create, you're really sure you want to do this? You're really sure you want to pick this one? No, there's so many flowers. I mean, the anemones, the beautiful, or is it anemones that you have behind? Those are like the best to recreate in sugar, from the heart and the petals and the coloring. Anemones are absolutely perfect for sugar.
Oh, wow. So,
Yeah.
for everyone on YouTube, you can see the beautiful flowers that are behind Natasha, and I'm curious. So, like, when you have those behind you
Yeah,
that you've created, how long do they last?
forever.
I mean, do they just harden up and
Yeah, they
uh,
harden up.
yeah,
I don't have any animals in our home, so they don't get touched, or they do get a little bit of dust, but that's easily solved.
yeah,
And When you protect them under a glass dome, they really, really last forever. Like if I look, like I talked about the anemone, like this is like the sound of sugar, and it's like really, really tough. But these are like, this is a sugar anemone, and no,
I
I
mean, it
was
looks
trying to,
real.
if my microphone would, yeah, it's well, I hope it looks real, but if I would um put this in that beautiful arrangement behind you, if it would be like, oh, which one is the real one and which one is the sugar one, that's always what I aim for.
That's amazing. So when you do, okay, so I have to ask this question because I can't imagine the time that's involved. So I'm a little scared, but I'm going to ask where what where do your cakes start at price wise, and then what's the most expensive one you've ever done?
It really, really depends on what kind of flowers you want on your cake.
Hmm.
And usually my cakes are between
I thought you might have a minimum or something too.
yeah, there's absolutely a minimum. There's absolutely a minimum of 1,200.
Hmm.
That's euros, so that's a little bit more in dollars at the moment.
Hmm.
There was a time actually where the euro was less than the dollar, but
Hmm.
and but usually that is not like the weddings that I do. When I do make the cake, because I'm quite selective and I don't do
Sure.
each and every but usually what I when I get to work, it's between 3K and 10K
Hmm.
euros. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Well,
And it really, really depends on how many flowers.
sure, sure, because
Yeah,
I mean that's a
not
lot of
even
time.
people. It's a lot of time, and I'm very happy that I have clients who understand and appreciate what they're actually ordering. They're
Hmm.
ordering like these flowers, even just one, they're small pieces of art.
Hmm.
And if you have a wedding where you have certain flowers, like let's say you have blue delphinium, and you have peonies, and you have, well, a certain greenery or tulips, and you can have them replicated in sugar, you actually have a keepsake from your very special day. So all the other flowers, they go to waste, or well, sometimes for special means they can be preserved, but usually they're gone.
Hmm.
And these are really like objects that you can keep forever.
Mm, that's amazing. I feel like that's the thing that people um might forget or didn't realize that they last that long,
Yeah.
and that they can actually be like these sculptures or work of art,
Yeah.
literally, that you can
Yeah.
keep. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it almost makes that cake even more special because you can do that.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely. It is the flowers of your special day. It is the atmosphere, the colors of that special day. And I can absolutely guarantee you there are brides who have these very large glass domes, and I tell them, I instruct them when they get home how to arrange them. You put a little bit of styrofoam with a little bit of dried moss, and you stick all those flowers in there. You put the dome over it, and it's just a beautiful object to have in your home. So it's not just a cake that they order. They know that they're ordering also a piece of art, a piece of floral art.
I love it. That's so beautiful. I know recently that I think you've taken both loves of flowers and creating sugar flowers into a new book. I saw you
Yeah.
unboxing it the other day. And it really touched me to watch you do that. And I'd love to hear more about that and what's in it and when we can expect to see it.
Thank you. I'd love to share. I'd love to share. Well, first, that unboxing video. I made a video because I thought this moment is never going to happen again. I said to my husband, I think we should record. And so I waited for my daughter to come home from school. The box actually arrived in the morning, and it was on our kitchen table the whole time. I thought I knew what was in it because my editor had said to me, oh, it's going to come your way. And so my daughter came home from school. We were all there, and we started taping, and I never really thought I'm going to share this, also because it's like a 3-minute video. And everybody says, keep the reel short and fast and 1 minute. And I didn't even know it was even possible to upload. And then I thought, oh, I can upload. Well, no one's going to watch. No one's gonna watch. And little did I know. Yeah, it does convey every feeling I have about the book. And still, it is a bit raw.
Yes.
It was just so much. I never shared. I did share that I was working on something. I couldn't share that I was working on the book because it was so, it was just too deep. I don't know how to explain it. And I think I needed to really, really see it to believe it. Even all those nights doing Zoom calls and everything that it took in me, and all the the discussions with the team and everyone. I always thought, what if it's not going to happen? What if something is going to get? What if? So I knew I was going to be in this for the long run. And I didn't want to be that person who was at the party and then, oh, how's your book? And then 2 years later, weren't you working on a book? How was your, this is like something that it is a process that takes so long. So when that moment finally came, and it was actually, I mean, literally the first thing that I felt was when I had the book in my hands was actually the weight of it. So I had the document always on my computer, of course, and scrolling, and you get your first pages, your second pages, and everybody who has done this process knows what I'm talking about. But to then actually feel your book in your hands, the actual weight, the weight of all those years working, literally lifting from your shoulders, was just, yeah. I still, when I think about that, I have trouble not to get too emotional. Yeah.
Well, I think that says a lot for the book because you obviously have poured a great deal of yourself into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what will make it. I haven't even seen it yet, but I'm sure that's what will make it a wonderful book because it's not just a cookbook, or it's not, and I don't want to belittle any other book because there's all kind of books out there, but when you are sharing a part of yourself in it, then it's more than art. It's more, it's soul. I mean, it's part of your soul.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So how long have you been working on it?
3 years.
Wow.
Really, really 3 years. I actually started documenting certain flowers, and I started thinking about the stories that I wanted to share. Also because you can only say so much in a caption on Instagram, right? So
Yes.
I really thought there's so much more that I want to say. So I had the book on my mind. It was already in my heart, and I continued photographing, and then my husband would sometimes say to me, so, oh, what is this for? Is this for Instagram? No, it's for the book. And I didn't have a publisher. I didn't have anything like that. I just knew I have to record this at this moment, right now. I have to make it. I have to arrange it. As a matter of fact, the arrangement that's on the cover, I shot it even before I had an agent. Before I even had the book deal. So I just knew this is something that I need to do. Time passed, and I have a wonderful agent, and that's how it really started rolling. And from that, so when you really start in this, when things really start to
Right.
move, the first thing I thought was, okay, now then when is the book coming? So next year. No. When you think about a book in the publishing world, everything is quite set. So think 2-3 years. So even from that moment, it took another 2 years. So yeah, all in all, 3 years.
So when does it release?
25th of April. And
Is
it
that
is,
everywhere or just in Europe?
yes, yes, it is everywhere. It might be a few days later in the rest of the world, but it is certainly 25th of April in North America and Canada. Yeah. So maybe a few days later in Europe, but not a whole lot longer. Yes, I'm very fortunate to have a US publisher, Penguin Random, 10-speed press, imprint of Penguin Random House, and they distribute all over the world. And yeah, so I'm very, very lucky with that.
So tell us about the book. What's in it exactly? Is it more real flowers, sugar flowers? What is it about?
It's a bit of both. It's a
Mhm.
lot of both. Maybe I should say it that way. It's a lot of both. So the book is about flowers, and at the same time, it's about really so much more than flowers. And you touched the subject quite early on when we started this conversation, how well, everything in Holland is, when it comes to flowers, it's just a different level.
Mhm.
So I thought I really need to talk about that, because I think that it is a wonderful, wonderful story to share. And I really wanted to share it in a way where it not only talks about what it is nowadays, but also how it came about. Because everything, of course, there are seeds and there are beginnings. And so I talk about flowers in that sense. I think it is a subject that many people, I hope, will find lovely to hear about. I talk about my work and what drives me, my passion, my creativity, and hopefully that will inspire people. And it will, of course, there are real flowers. And the book is, what my main goal was, you know, we all talk about beauty and the beauty of flowers, and the healing part of flowers. So yeah,
Yes.
but I think that to really make it more practical, I also wanted to put that in the book. Like, okay, give me the tools, give me the really step by step to actually get to work. So it's informative, it's hopefully inspiring, it is instructive, it's all that.
Mm. Well, I'm excited to hear about all of that, and I'm excited to hear about the Amsterdam side of it too, because I think um, unless you're like myself, a buyer, or you live there, or you're from there, you really don't.
Yeah.
You know, we say a lot of times. I know here as a flower person in the U.S., we wish that flowers were more of our culture than it is. And I think we've come a long way in the last 15, 20 years, but it's still not like it is in Europe and especially Holland. So
No.
it's really neat.
No, that's
Um
true.
mhm,
Flowers are like the tulip, it's literally our national symbol. And I think we've come to really appreciate not just the beauty of it, but also, for us, it's a necessity. We
mhm,
do not consider it a luxury. It's on the same level as food, I think, for the Dutch people. When you buy food, you buy flowers. There's always flowers, even if it's just 5 tulips in a vase. most Dutch homes, they will have flowers. And I think that the way that the Netherlands invests in the creators and the technology and everything behind it, I think that that is just so important. I think one of the most important things about, I think the difference is that everyone is involved. Everyone is involved, whether it's the students at the agricultural universities or yeah, we understand the importance of flowers and we're willing to invest in it.
Well, and I'm glad you said that too, because it is true. It's like all the way from the breeder to the farmer to the logistics to
Yeah,
shipping, receiving. I mean, because obviously other flowers from other parts of the world come through there as well.
yeah,
And you know, designing, you know, I mean it's so many people are connected either
yeah,
directly or indirectly that
yeah,
it really is amazing.
yeah,
I'm curious, to change subjects briefly, um, with the push to be more sustainable here in the US.
yes.
And I know you mentioned that earlier with using sugar flowers to do that. How do you feel like that is playing out in Europe, like in Holland? Is that a theme that's also being carried through,
Oh,
or
absolutely.
yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, I cannot emphasize enough how I know some of these growers. I don't know all of them. I know
Hmm.
some of these growers. They do everything they can to work in the most sustainable way, whether it's with wind energy or solar or sun energy. And I think that we still, of course, have a long way to go. And I don't think that there's such a thing as too much sustainability. But I do know that they try to work in the most efficient way when it comes to using water or using plastics and all those kinds of things. I think people forget that Holland is a couple of meters below sea level. So
Right.
we are very much aware of the impact of um, the use of natural resources and well, you know, climate change in general. This is a topic that is really at the forefront of, well, anything in this country. We really try to work in the most sustainable way. Sometimes there are no other choices, but I do think that growers, where they can, they really do try to do the best that they can. And yeah, that is what and I also think that we may say, oh, no, we're not going to get flowers from a country so and so or from afar. But I think that sometimes, and this may sound, maybe people are not gonna be happy about me saying this, but there are people behind those products. There are livelihoods behind those products, and I know that some of these flowers, and I only speak now for Dutch growers, right? I don't speak for when there are Colombia, whatever, but I know in my heart that these growers have a lot of care for the people that work for them. And it also is a way for these people to make a living, bring their children to school. And yeah, we may say, no, I'm not going to get anything from a plane. But I don't think that that is realistic as well. I think we should not forget who is behind what we consume from the rest of the world. There are sometimes people behind that who are also dependent on it.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting point of view for it because I feel like that is really true. I mean, there are and how many countries in the world, you know, base their entire economy on agriculture?
Yes,
Whether, you know, no matter what kind it is, it's still that. And
yes,
just and I honestly think that there's a lot of times we don't realize how interdependent the entire system is around the globe,
Yes,
as far as whether it's rice or wheat or tulips or
exactly.
roses or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Um, because I know when I visited Kenya a long time, it's like over 20 years ago, I didn't realize that Kenya was such a large exporter to Holland.
yeah,
Like, like their roses mostly go to Holland, which then end up in, the UK or wherever,
yeah, true.
and all across Europe. But it's huge,
It's
and
huge. Yeah,
it's a lot of people that,
yeah,
their livelihood, like you said, does depend
yeah,
on it.
yeah,
And I think that's one thing that I do appreciate about the system in Amsterdam or Aalsmeer, that that they are open to receiving stuff from all over the world,
yeah,
as long as it works within their parameters.
yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And I also know some of these people who, when it comes to pesticides, especially in the Netherlands, the research and developments when it comes to using certain pesticides is really, really, it is quite at the forefront. It is not what it always used to be. There's still practices somewhere else in the world that I do not condone, but I
mm,
do know for sure that also because I know somebody who works in this business. First, they actually educate. They travel around the world to educate the rest of the world to change the policies when it comes to using pesticides. There's so many or so many more friendlier ways to well, get rid of unwanted creatures and without all the very damaging chemicals.
right,
I I can honestly, I mean, I know what passion Dutch growers put into their product. I know the responsibilities that they take for the people that work for them. And I really do hope that by saying this, um, like I said, I don't think that there's really a really right or a really wrong. Um, but I think that we do have to be open to other ways of growing things. It is not just your backyard. If it
mm,
is only that, especially with food, we are so used to all the greenhouses here in the Netherlands. It is like a conveyor belt theme park that people cannot even comprehend what it's all about. It is so humongously huge.
I know you wake up
Really,
in the morning really early and you
yes,
can see the glow on the horizon.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. And we have the tomatoes are growing there. There are greenhouses where they grow lettuce that doesn't even need a whole lot of water. It's just insane what they can do. And I think that we should really um rethink the word nature, because just because it has grown in your backyard and you consider that nature doesn't mean that when it is cultivated in a greenhouse under certain conditions that it's not nature. I mean, the tomatoes that I eat that come from my supermarket, they are cultivated in those greenhouses. What? It's not nature that I'm eating?
yeah,
There are certain areas in the world where food is going to, whether it's winter or where it's scarce. And I think that the way the Netherlands have been able to produce food in such a way, I think it is something that is absolutely necessary when we look to the future.
yeah.
It is so
Well,
much more than just, oh, the flowers came by plane.
right, right. No, I
I'm sorry.
understand. No, I understand. I understand what you're saying, because there is a lot. There's a lot of levels that people don't always think about,
No.
it's good to have that kind of conversation just to help educate people, and I appreciate that. So, um, getting back to the kind of flowers you create, do you see what you're doing now with making sugar flowers as like you're having to connect with like trends and things like that? I mean, you can obviously create probably any color, right?
Yeah.
And any I
Yeah.
mean, I'm kind of curious, how has that changed since the time you began doing it to now? Or maybe it hasn't.
No, I think that first of all, I think you have to look at creativity as this sort of infinity pool. I mean,
Hmm.
sometimes even I sometimes, I doubt myself and I think, oh, I hope today is a good day. I will be able to produce something lovely. Some days are better than other days, but I do, the basic fundamental thought is always my creativity is like this infinity pool. So it is endless. And even when I sometimes think, no, it's not going to happen, just begin, just take that one stem, just
Sure.
take that one vase that has your most, or that one vessel that has that you're most passionate about at that moment of time, and work from there. And sometimes I will, depending on my mood, I will keep things soft. And sometimes I think, oh, I might miss a magenta colored peony. I need something really pink in there. And I will actually create that flower. And I
Mm.
will be able to arrange it with the other tones. Or sometimes I'm so captivated by a flower and I will photograph it, and then I start copying it in the days after. And those flowers I will just keep using those, at risk of sometimes being afraid people will think, oh my gosh, her work is really repetitive, but that's just because I'm just sometimes really happy with certain sugar flowers, and I just keep adding them. And I also think that, how bad is it to keep like a certain dress? Do you only wear it one time and then not another
Mm.
time because other people have seen it?
Right.
No, just combine it with different things and just keep using it. So there are certain flowers who have been in my arrangements. They have appeared like 10 times or over. That's my way of working sustainable. I don't really, sometimes I think, no, better not use it because I used it last week, but then I think, no, I still love it. Last
Yeah.
week, this week, yeah,
Yeah. Well, and I think some things are just timeless. I mean, I think
yeah,
as you create, I feel like, certain colors or shapes or roses or pink, whatever, it's like they're just timeless.
yes,
And even if you're using something like that over and over for a period of time, I mean, even flowers have seasons, right? Where you
yes,
like right now we might see acacia for 6 weeks.
yeah,
And we
exactly,
and at the end of the acacia season, we might be tired of it by then
yeah,
and ready to move on to the next season, which is perfectly fine and normal.
yes,
And
yeah.
why should what you create be any different? And
No,
um,
exactly.
yeah.
No, but I think that, as a creative, the thing that scares me the most, I think, is that people might get bored with what you do. But at the same time, I also have to let go of that. I also have to let go of trying to be that flashy, new, innovative, whatever, because in the end, that is not sustainable. You
Hmm.
cannot create with that imagery, like that image in your mind of who you think you should be. You can only do what you feel is right at that moment, at that time.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And even with social media and things like that, such a small percentage of our followers actually see a post on any given time, that
Yeah.
even though it may feel redundant to you, it may not be actually to anybody else. So
No.
and it's important for people to see some of these things because then they
Yes.
have the opportunity to experience it
Yes.
and see. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, and I think I'm just sitting here enamored with all the flowers behind you. Have you ever decided that, you know what, I want to create my own flower? Like I don't want to like I want to invent this new mega flower and
Fantasy.
fantasy flower. And so we can have like, Natasha's special release collection and her own creation, her 2023 collection, kind of like fashion, and she creates her own flowers. Have you ever
Yeah.
tried that?
No.
Well, that was really anticlimactic to my build
No,
up there.
no, I have not. I have not. I really, really, I mean, there are certain flowers that might not be exactly like the real thing, or I
Well,
might
sure.
have used a little bit of my own, but no. If somebody would ask me that, like, okay, this is the future, you're 50 years from now,
Uh-huh.
you can design a flower, what would I wouldn't even want to think about it, because I have too much respect for nature. I have too
Ah,
much respect for what is already out there. That is like saying what is already out there, that's not good enough for me.
hmm.
Does that sound
No, I think it's
awkward?
no, I think that's fine. I just think sometimes, people that have a craft like you've described
Yeah,
and are creative, try to put their own twist on it. And sometimes it really works, but
yeah.
more times I think it doesn't. And so that's why I was just curious if you had ever
Yeah, I have to
thought
say that
about
I
that.
think that when it comes to putting your own identity in those flowers, and your own twist, as you say it is more about how you will sculpt those flowers. That is
Right.
what will distinguish them one from the other. If
Sure.
I have a class and there are 10 students, even though there was one flower on the program that we are all going to create, they still, all of them, look different, because people will color in a different way, people will roll out the sugar in a different way, people will make the structure, of the petals in a different way. Somebody will work larger or bigger or smaller than the original flower. I think that those are the kinds of things that will make your work stand out. I don't think that, and I absolutely encourage anyone, if they want to make fantasy flowers, please, indulge me. I want to be inspired. But if you ask me personally, I just love what is out there too much. And if I would, for instance, now say, okay, you know what, from now on, I'm only going to make roses. There's so many roses. My life is too short to recreate all those roses. If
Sure.
I was going to say, you know what, I'm just now going to make orchids, talk about, brilliant flowers when it comes to design and color, and there's so many orchids.
No, that's a
My
great
life,
point. That's a
yeah,
great
my
point.
life would be too short to just to recreate all the orchids out there in the world. So
Yeah.
if I would from now on say, you know what, I'm a peony sugar artist, so I only make peonies, I it would keep me busy for the rest of my life.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Definitely a great point. I'm curious with all of the different things you've been involved in. I know the book has been a big thing, a big, huge project. I'm wondering with whether it be in your tour dresses, things like that, or with its
Mm-hmm.
cakes or with florals. Has there ever been sort of a challenging time where maybe you kind of had to overcome something or you were challenged by something, and how did you work
So
through
many
that?
times. Ooh, yeah, so many times. But most definitely the book.
Oh,
It
sure.
it has been the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. The most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. And it is absolutely um, glorious, and at the same time grueling. I can be honest about that. It is not just, oh, you know what, we're just gonna bundle up some lovely pictures and yeah, let's publish. No, 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 no. It's so much more than that. And although I had the stories in my mind, and they were in my heart, and I was really ready to share them, that actual moment of actually reproducing, like really, it's um, bringing it to the world, bringing it to fruition. I was very lucky with um, an assistant writer, Sarah. And of course, I mean, I speak English. But to write a book is actually a different level. Even
Mm.
if you are good in English, even if you're to be a really good writer, like book material, that is something that I think people underestimate. So I was very, very lucky with having Sarah Owens on my side. And yeah, to really bring your stories home, it is a very, very emotional process. So by far, that has been the most difficult thing. Absolutely. Also, this is your this is it was so funny. I was actually coming out of a Zoom, and it was one of the last. It was quite a recent one, and my children were already at the dinner table, and I was in quite a good mood actually. So I came in. They had dinner, and my daughter said, "Mom, it's like, do you have like 3 kids now? Like it's us in the book."
Wow. Yeah.
And I really had to, and I was like, yeah, it is. This is in some ways, yeah. There was this anticipation, this hope. Then there was this moment of you know, hoping and looking forward to the birth of it, and you're really birthing something, and it is actually longer than being pregnant, I have to say. But anyway, no, it was by far the most challenging thing I've ever done, but also, like I said, the most rewarding. I don't think I would want to have missed any part of the process, as difficult as it was, but especially as beautiful as it was. I don't think I wanted to have missed anything about it, because it also made me think a lot. It really made me think about what I want to say, what I want to share, where is it coming from, um, and um, and there has to be truth in that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Well, I think too when you go through that, and people don't realize, from picking colors and fonts and you know the type of paper, I mean, there's just so many decisions that go into it
yeah.
that I'm curious. At any time, did you regret or did you think like, I've lost my mind? Why am I doing this? Or were you pretty much, a
So
hundred
many
percent?
times. Yeah, yeah, but in the end, so those sleepless nights, I also knew daylight is going to come, new
Yes.
energy is going to come,
Yes.
and I will get through this. I will get through this. This is on my plate. I'll deal with it. It will be okay. It really will be okay. And also, I mean, like I said, I was very lucky with an amazing team. I also knew that whatever problem would arise, but sometimes, when problems arise, we always think that we have to solve it by ourselves first. We're not. I find it sometimes difficult to seek out for. No, I will just come up with a solution first. Sometimes, you really have to bring in the troops earlier. That is something that I also learned, that talking about things, being honest, um, really will help you. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. And even if you're very scary, don't think that you have to have all the answers in that moment, especially with a book. It is such a long process. When you're scary, when you're insecure, when you're about anything, and you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to solve this? Just say, you know what, I'm having a really hard time with this. And then most of the time, people will understand. People will understand.
I think that's really true for almost any entrepreneur, anybody that is doing things. Like what you
Yeah.
just said is very applicable. I mean, yes, with the
Yeah.
book writing process, but so many things.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad you shared that. I
Yeah.
always like to wrap up our episodes with the advice question, and just kind of curious if there was something perhaps different that you would like to leave with our listeners?
Um, really, it's in the book, but I can't, even if you don't get the book, this is absolutely my main advice. Stay as close to your heart as you can, because that is your compass. That is your compass. And even if you think things are impossible, try to visualize them anyway. Speak out your dreams, write down your dreams. Be very specific about your dreams. Only then the universe will know exactly what to get you. And don't be afraid to dream big dreams. Do not be afraid to dream big dreams. They may take a while. They may take a while. Sometimes we don't always get what we want. But because your intentions are clear and out in that world, I do think that the universe will reward you in some sort of way. So stay close to your heart.
That's really special. I'm thankful that you shared that. Um, I feel like with the book coming out now in what, 3 months,
Yes, 3 months,
what's
yes.
the best way for us? We're going to share links to your website in our show notes and
Yeah.
such. But
Thank you so much for that.
is that the best way for us to order the book, or is there what's the best
Yeah.
place?
Well, um, well, like I said, Penguin Random House is a very large publisher. So any country's Amazon. I also put book depository links for people, for instance, in New Zealand or anywhere else in the world. But if the links for your country are not sufficient, you can always just Google the book, A Suite for All Life, and see what book suppliers come up in your area. You can also go to your independent bookstore, your local bookstore, and order the book. And then the book will be available as soon as it comes out. So there are multiple ways.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very,
Well,
very happy with that.
yeah, that's a great perk of being a part of that organization and team. So, Natasja, thank you so much for being on the Flower Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Scott. It was absolutely a pleasure. You are such a lovely host. You're so kind. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank you.